Go outside tonight and look up. Don't glance. Actually stop, even for just 30 seconds. Put your phone in your pocket. Let your eyes adjust to the dark. Whatever you see up there, that's the exact same thing every human who ever lived saw. Every clear night, for 300,000 years. Same stars, same patterns, the same river of light spilling across the sky that we now call the Milky Way. But here's the one thing that separates you from every single person who looked up before about 200 years ago. You know what it is. You know those little lights are giant balls of fire. So far away, the number stops meaning anything. You know some of them burned out long before you were born, and you're seeing a ghost. They knew none of that. They looked up at the same sky you're looking at, and had to figure out, completely from scratch, with no science and nobody to ask, what all of it meant. And what they came up with didn't just explain the stars. It built the entire world we live in. Quick thing before we go back 40,000 years, because it matters for the rest of this. Have you ever laid on your back on a clear night and felt something you couldn't put into words? Not quite happy, not quite sad. Small, but in a good way. Like you're part of something huge. That feeling is older than language. You didn't invent it. You inherited it. From people who felt the exact same thing, standing in the exact same dark 300,000 years ago, and couldn't name it either. So do me a favor. In the comments, tell me the last time you really saw the stars. Not a screen. The real thing. One memory. Whatever comes up. I read them, because the answer says a lot about how far we've drifted from the world that made us. Hold on to that memory. We're coming back to it at the end, and it's going to feel different by then. This channel goes back further than any history class ever took you. If that's your kind of thing, subscribe. There's a new one every week. First, you need to understand what the sky actually looked like back then, because it's nothing like what you've ever seen. There were no lights, anywhere. No street lights, no cities glowing orange on the horizon, no screen in anyone's pocket. On a clear night, the sky was so packed with stars that the dark spaces between them were the small part. The Milky Way wasn't a faint smudge you have to drive hours to find. It was the brightest thing in the world, after the sun and moon. On a night with no moon, it was bright enough to throw a shadow on the ground at your feet. People back then could see around 4,000 stars with their bare eyes. Most people in a city today, fewer than 200. We've lost almost all of it. And this sky wasn't just sitting there. It moved. Every night, the whole thing turned overhead. Stars climbed up in the east and sank in the west. Some disappeared for months and came back right on schedule. And a handful of bright dots wandered around on their own, ignoring all the rules the others followed. Now think about their world. On the ground, nothing was safe and nothing made sense. Animals vanished. Rivers flooded out of nowhere. People got sick and died for no reason anyone could see. But the sky? The sky never broke its promises. It did the same thing, the same way, every single night. And nothing, no storm, no drought, no predator, could touch it. Something up there was clearly in charge. And when an ancient human saw something that powerful and that perfect, they did the thing humans always do. They went looking for who was running it. The first thing ancient humans did with the stars is the same thing we do with any pattern we don't understand. They made it personal. The oldest star map we've ever found is 17,000 years old. It's painted on the ceiling of a cave in France called Lascaux. For years, everybody assumed the paintings were just hunting scenes, bulls and deer, drawn by firelight. Then someone looked closer at a little cluster of dots painted above one of the bulls. The dots matched the stars, not roughly. Exactly. That cluster of dots lines up perfectly with the Pleiades, the little group of stars you can still find tonight, sitting exactly where they sat in the sky 17,000 years ago. Other dots matched other patterns we still use today. Sit with that for a second. Someone, 17,000 years ago, in a freezing cave, by firelight, looked up and then painted the sky onto the rock above their head, in the right spots, above the right animals. That's not cavemen scribbling. That's a person doing science. But why those stars above those animals? Because they'd figured out something incredible without any way to explain it. The stars and the seasons were connected. When a certain group of stars showed up just before sunrise, the rains came. When another showed up, the herds came back. In Egypt, the river flooded, the one thing their whole survival depended on. At almost the exact moment one bright star, Sirius, reappeared in the morning sky after being gone for weeks. It was so reliable they built their entire calendar around that one star. This wasn't magic to them. It was data. Lifetimes of people watching the same sky, night after night, and passing down what they saw. Because getting the timing wrong meant you starved. They weren't gazing at the stars to feel poetic. They were checking them the way you check the weather on your phone. The sky was their calendar, their clock, their map, and their farming guide, all at once. For most of human history, it was the only one anyone had. Let me stop here, because this is the whole reason this channel exists. We take the stuff about being human that feels automatic, looking up, needing the sky to mean something, feeling small, and we trace it all the way back to the first people who ever felt it. Not the dates and the bones, the thoughts, what it actually felt like to be the first person who wondered. If you didn't know you wanted that until right now, subscribe. They come out every week and they connect. Each one's a piece of the same picture, how we turned into this strange, wondering creature. And here's a real question to sit with while we keep going. That need for the sky to mean something. Do you think we ever actually lost it? Or did we just point it somewhere else? Tell me below. I really want to know where you land on this one. But the stars did something bigger than keep people fed. Looking up, ancient humans started asking a question nobody had ever asked before. Is someone up there? Not aliens. They weren't thinking spaceships. Something closer to the bone. Is somebody on the other side of all this? Watching? Did someone put this here? And do they know I'm standing down here? Looking up? And here's the part that gives me chills. Almost every culture that ever lived came up with the same answer. Completely separately. Oceans apart. Never having met. Yes, someone's there. The stars were people. Or where people went after they died. Or the eyes of the ones who came before, still watching. The Egyptians thought the night sky was a giant body stretched over the world, and the stars were scattered across her like grain. So when you looked up, you were looking at the inside of a living thing. Aboriginal Australians, whose star knowledge is the oldest unbroken tradition on Earth, more than 60,000 years, didn't even look at the stars for their shapes. They looked at the dark gaps between the stars and saw a giant emu stretched across the sky. The Greeks turned the stars into characters, with stories that doubled as life lessons and warnings. Different people, different continents, tens of thousands of years apart. Same exact instinct, every single time. Look up, find a pattern, give it a face, give it a story. Because a universe that means something is one you can live in. A universe that means nothing is one almost nobody can stand. And those weren't just bedtime stories. They were how people saved their most important knowledge and passed it down without a single written word. The Polynesians crossed thousands of miles of open ocean with no instruments, no maps, nothing but the stars memorized and turned into stories handed down for generations. Stories accurate enough to find a single island, the size of a town, in the middle of the biggest ocean on Earth. That emu in the aboriginal sky? It wasn't decoration. When it appeared a certain way, it meant the real emus were laying eggs. Time to go collect them. The story was the calendar. A kid could learn it around a fire and carry a survival manual in their head for life. No writing required. Ancient humans looked up at the stars and built some of the smartest information systems that have ever existed, and hid them inside stories so good they lasted thousands of years. Now go back to that memory I asked you to hold. The last time you really saw the stars. Here's the part that should sting a little. We are the first humans, in 300,000 years, to lose the sky. Most people alive today can't see the Milky Way from where they live. There are kids growing up right now who will never once see the thing that every single one of their ancestors saw on every clear night of their entire lives. And we didn't just lose a nice view. We lost the thing that reminded us, every night, that we're small. The thing that made people look up and feel humble, and connected, and full of questions. We traded the whole universe for an orange glow, and a screen 6 inches from our face. Think about the trade. The ancient human had almost nothing. No safety, no comfort, no answers. But every clear night, for free, they got the entire universe laid out above them. And they actually used it. They built meaning out of it. We have everything they didn't have. And most nights, we don't even look up. The first humans looked up because they had to. The sky was their clock, their map, and the only company they had in the dark. They had no answers, so they did the most human thing there is. They looked up anyway. And they wondered. That wondering is the oldest part of you. Older than your name. Older than any word you know. And it's still in there. It wakes up the second you get somewhere dark enough. Look up and feel that old, quiet, electric thing you can't quite explain. So here's the only thing I'll actually ask you to do. Sometime soon, get somewhere dark. Put the phone away. Look up. And feel the exact thing a human felt 40,000 years ago, looking at the same sky. Then come back and tell me what you felt. That's the longest unbroken thread in our whole story. And it costs you nothing but looking up. Every question we've ever asked started the same way. A person, in the dark, staring at something too big to understand, and choosing to wonder anyway. If that's the kind of thing you want to keep thinking about, this is the channel for it. New one every week. We'll see you there.